Welcome back to the KC Sports Authority podcast. This is your host, Keegan Russell. And in the last one, we gave our reaction to Selection Sunday. And in this second half of our conversation with the boys, we actually put together our official podcast bracket for the podcast challenge. So let's get into it. So again, to you guys listening, as a reminder, we are doing a free bracket challenge, one entry per person. First place winner gets a $100 Rally House gift card. Second place gets a $50 gift card to Jefferson's restaurant, and third place gets a $25 gift card to Johnny's Tavern. So please join the bracket challenge. You don't want to miss out. We are going to have an official podcast bracket, and then each of us will also have our own individual bracket because I'm sure between the three of us, we won't agree on everything. But we're going to go through and build this bracket here together as a group. So if you're watching us on YouTube later, we'll have our official bracket posted later. A little difficult to kind of pick it as we're recording here. But let's kind of go through it, guys. Let's start in the Alabama side of the bracket. I don't actually have all it hasn't completely uploaded what I want. So let's look at the play-in matchups first. So for Alabama, their play-in matchup is Texas Southern and Farley Dickinson. Do you guys want to actually pick these playing games? Does that matter to you at all? None of them really stand out to me as any team that's going to have an upset in the first round. Maybe Mississippi State.
I agree.
So I personally, I don't know anything about Farley Dickinson. We saw Texas Southern play KU at the beginning of the year. They have a decent big guy. Any disagreement picking Texas Southern? All right, let's just go pick. So now you got Texas Southern against Alabama. I think that's a pretty no-brainer here. Oh, why is it not letting me fill it out? Come on. There we go. So Alabama there. How about Maryland, West Virginia? Do we want to go Big 12 here?
I'm going Big 12, West Virginia.
I agree. Big 12 all the way.
All right, then we got San Diego State, Charleston. Charleston honestly should be ranked higher. They were a top 25 team, but because of where they play, who they play, they get the 12 seed. Is this a potential 12-5 upset? Or are we going with the history of San Diego State?
I gotta at least have one in the first round.
So I guess before we fill it out, here's your 5-12 matchups. And we know this is going to happen somewhere in the bracket because it happens every year. You got College of Charleston, San Diego State. Then you've got Duke, Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts is decent. VCU, St. Mary's, that's a pretty good matchup there. And then Drake over Miami. Now, right now, Drake is the favorite of the 12 seeds to have the upset just because of Miami's inconsistency and lack of defense. But do we want to call – I'm kind of feeling the 12-5 upset here because I think Charleston's – they're getting overlooked, in my opinion.
I agree.
You guys want to go Charleston?
Yeah, I go the 12 here.
Okay. Then we got Virginia Furman. I think this is pretty obvious there. Virginia advances. Creighton, North Carolina State, NC State, decent year in the ACC. ACC wasn't the most in-depth conference, but they did make a little bit of noise there. Creighton had an in and out season. They're probably the more talented team on the roster. Do we have upset here, or is this Creighton going?
Honestly, I think this is Creighton right here. NC State, for me, just seemed to barely make the tournament, right? So I don't think NC State really has a chance here. Really, what I like about Creighton, I just think they're really consistent. I think they're a complete team. I think everyone really knows their role pretty well. So I got to go Creighton here. Just going by seed. I don't want to pick all upsets, of course, but it's just kind of a gut feeling more than anything.
We still got 3 more regions to go through for upsets too.
Yeah.
So let's go Creighton there. Baylor, UCSB, pretty obvious. I think should be Baylor. I would also not be surprised if this is a 14-3 upset just because Baylor has choked a lot in the tournament, but I think their guard play is going to push them pretty far in this tournament. So good with that? All right.
I agree.
Then we get to the hated Missouri Tigers for KU fans. Really don't want to pick them, but I do think they had a very good year. Dennis Gates did excellent his first year, and I'm all for giving them maybe just one win here in the tournament just to get the fan base going. But I'm also fine as KU fans saying, screw that, they're getting nothing.
Look, I'm one to say that I personally, now I know this is not going to line up with every KU fan. I don't despise Mizzou as much as I might despise K-State or Kentucky. That's just me personally. Maybe it's because of when I came to KU. I was there in Mizzou's final year in the Big 12. And with them leaving the conference, it was hard for me to really develop a hate, especially when I didn't grow up in Kansas. In fact, all my teen years were in St. Louis. So that was Missouri, Tiger Town, whatever. But regardless, I've seen nothing but Utah State picks here. And I'm thinking everyone's probably smarter than me with this. Mizzou has had a fantastic year. I think at the time that we played them and we just wiped the floor with them, which was fantastic to watch, we were talking about how they really haven't played anybody. And yeah, sure, they put up a lot of points, but against who, right? And then they kept winning and kept winning. And here they are, a 7th seed. So they're definitely impressive. I will tip my hat to them, but I just don't think I can give them the win here.
Can't do it.
Can't do it, man.
Spencer, I'll let you be the deciding vote.
I will never, if I have a swing vote, I'm never going to give it to Missouri. So
all right, we'll give Utah State. Just for the record, I do think Missouri is an underrated 7 seed. They played. I don't see them getting out of the second round anyway, but I think they're a team that you could have argued as a little bit higher seed. But again, impressive year for them. Props to them. Glad we don't really care about them. But Utah State it is. And then finally in that first round there, Arizona Princeton. I don't think we're going to see a 15-2 up seed there. Arizona's one of the most talented teams, so let's do that. All right. Back up to the top with Alabama, West Virginia. Now, Bob Huggins is a good coach, and he could slow them down. But do they have enough offensive firepower to keep up with the likes of Brandon Miller and Nate Oates' high-powered offense?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I got to go with Bama here. I mean, West Virginia, I think they'll cause trouble, but they're not the West Virginia that's caused us so much trouble in the past. They're just not quite there. They've had some impressive wins, but a little bit too little too late for me, so I'm going Bama.
Good with me. Then we got the 12 seed Charleston against 4 seed Virginia. I really want to pick Virginia here because I want to see them match up against Bama to see if they can slow them down. Any chance for Charleston here to continue their March Madness upset run and move on to face Bama?
I don't like picking against Tony Bennett personally, and their grinded out style I think is built very well for March, because getting teams to play a different tempo than they're used to is a really good way to get them out of sorts and out of rhythm.
All right, let's go Virginia there. Then we got the 6 seed Creighton versus 3 seed Baylor out of the Big 12. Does the Big 12 continue its dominance in the last 2 seasons, or does Creighton finally advance to a Sweet 16?
You know, I'm kind of inclined to pick the upset here. I'm going to be honest. Baylor, outside of their national titles, has kind of disappointed me, along with the rest of the Big 12.
I kind of feel that, although I do think Baylor's been more consistent all year than Creighton. And not that Creighton can't get hot, but Baylor, when they're going, Baylor can score 100 any night with their trio of guards. JB, what are you feeling here?
You know, it's going to be a great game. For me, I really have to give the edge to Baylor, and I'm gonna bank on Keontae George, Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer. These guys have experience, and when in doubt, I usually go with experience. You know, and I've seen how resilient they are, so I got to go Baylor here.
All right, and then Arizona, Utah State. I think Arizona's the better team there. Utah State, you had your chance, but Arizona it is. All right, then we get to the Sweet 16 matchup here. Alabama, the 1 seed against Virginia, the 4 seed. Can Virginia keep things slow enough and make Brandon Miller frustrated to pull off the victory?
I'm gonna argue with no. I think one of the ways you can combat a slower tempo is to get guys that can score in the half court. And there's some NBA talent, including Brandon Miller on Bama, and I think that's a good remedy for someone that wants to slow the pace and cool off in transition.
Yeah,
I
I'm going to
agree
agree
there.
here.
Yep. I personally think Alabama's the best team in the country just because of the way they play with Brandon Miller, and I think that they're very hard to stop. So even Virginia there, I think first team to 50 wins that game, and I think Alabama can get there quicker. Then we got a very good matchup of Baylor, Arizona in the Sweet 16 to face Bama in the Elite Eight. I actually think that'd be a good matchup, and here's one where I could still see Baylor's experience and guard play getting them to that next round, but Arizona has two 7-footers in the paint that can get you. Balo's been a little struggling from the floor lately, but they've got between those two 7-footers, how many rebounds are you going to get? And you're going to get enough open looks to knock down, or does Baylor's offense find enough spaces and lanes to score? What are you guys feeling here? I think this is one of the tougher Sweet 16 matchups we'll see.
I hate going chalk, but I gotta go Arizona. Um, I've never really believed in Arizona personally. Um, and I'd like to think that the strength of Big 12 has prepared Baylor to win this game. But this Baylor team has just been missing a little tiny something defensively, and I just don't think it's there this year for them. Now, that doesn't mean I think Arizona's going to win it all, but I think between these two, this might be where Baylor goes down.
I'd agree.
All right, then Arizona it is. Scott Drew lets us down once again. All right, that was the South region. That took a little longer than I thought, so we're going to go a little quicker through these next regions. Let's go to the Midwest next. Houston over Northern Kentucky. Pretty obvious there. Iowa, Auburn. I'm inclined to go Auburn because I like Bruce Pearl more than I like Fran McCaffrey.
I always got Chris Murray, but they've been pretty inconsistent. And again, Big Ten was
I always
kind
think
of sketchy this year.
Big Ten's always overrated.
Yeah, I'd go Auburn.
All right, Auburn it is. Miami Drake. Is this the 12-5 upset, or do we go chalk here in Miami's offense gets them through round one?
I'm going with Drake on this one.
Drake, all right. Here's our second 12-5 upset. Second 12-5 upset. Indiana, Kent State, pretty obvious Indiana. I think they have one of the 5 best players in the country. We're going Indiana, no question there. Iowa State gets the play-in matchup between Mississippi State and Pittsburgh. Both teams honestly played pretty well down the stretch to get to the tournament. I wouldn't be surprised with whichever team gets to face Iowa State. Me personally, just because of Big 12, I want to push Iowa State into the next column. You guys good with that?
Yep.
All right, Iowa State gets an advancement. Xavier versus Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is super excited to be in the tournament, but Xavier is the dominant force here. I think that's a pretty easy chalk matchup. Texas A&M, Penn State, 7 versus 10 seed. Texas A&M is a team that could easily argue their case to be a higher seed than what they finished at just because of how they played down the stretch and getting to the conference championship, right? Yeah, they were in the SEC. Yeah. What are you guys feeling here? I think Penn State too. They made their conference championship. I think Texas A&M is a little bit more talented.
I'd agree. A&M.
All right, and then Texas Colgate. Colgate pulled off a nice upset. One of the last 3 years. I think it was it last year? Yeah, Colgate had an upset last year. They beat Wisconsin, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah, because Wisconsin was the 2 seed in our bracket, and Colgate just went. Yeah. I don't think that happens this year. Texas is probably the most athletic team in the country, and they're playing their best basketball right now. Back to the top here, the round of 32, Houston, Auburn, actually pretty solid matchup there. 2 old school coaches that have been around a long time. I think Houston has the better team here. They should be able to advance past Auburn. Not getting a 1 seed out just yet. Then we got Drake. Then we got Drake, Indiana here. I think Drake's time ends because Indiana has the better coaching staff, better player. Indiana to the Sweet 16. Iowa State, Xavier.
which could be a very fun matchup. Two teams that really grind it out, play nitty-gritty defense. May not be a great high-scoring game, but could be a fun game to watch. What are you guys feeling here?
I think Iowa State's just missing all their weapons. Grill's out. It makes me really scared for this matchup for them. So, and I hate doing it, putting 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's kind of where it's looking for me.
Okay.
I got to go Xavier on here.
All right, Xavier it is. Texas A&M and Texas, a battle of the Texas families. I still think Texas should pull this off. They're on a fantastic run right now and just look like one of the most impressive teams in the country. So we're going to skip them ahead. Sweet 16 matchup. Honestly, I think this is one that'll be a really, really good game to watch. Houston versus Indiana. This is one where I could see the first number one. Well, I know we're not to that part of the bracket yet, but I could see Houston dropping here in the Sweet 16 to Indiana. Now that they're finally against good competition. I do think Indiana, as much as we diss on the Big Ten, I think Indiana overall is pretty solid. And I think Trace Jackson Davis is incredible. Do you guys think this is one Indiana pulls off, or does Houston continue on? Now, Houston's very well coached. They've been in the Elite Eight like 3 times in the last 5 years with Coach Sampson.
Oh, man. I'd love to avoid going chalk here, and I think that Indiana is. A lot of people are arguing Indiana is a very underrated 4 seed. So whenever I see a matchup between a underranked powerhouse or power conference team versus maybe a higher seed that's from a weaker conference, I'm kind of inclined to go the Power 5 route. However, again, Big Ten wasn't that great this year, so I'm not sure on this one, to be honest.
JB, you got any feelings one way or the other?
This is definitely tough. I as a Kansas fan, I just want Houston to crumble. I really do want to go Indiana here. When we played them, of course, I thought I saw flashes of greatness. So, you know what? If it comes down to it, I think I'm going to go Indiana just to get Houston out of there because I don't believe in them.
Spencer, what was your official pick on this?
I wasn't sure, but I think I will, to avoid just picking the 1 seed here on every bracket too.
You want to go Indiana?
I'll go Indiana?
All right, I'll go with you guys. I think Houston gets that win because they've got better guard play, but I am totally fine with the upset there. And then Texas Xavier, also pretty good matchup here. 2 really good athletic teams again that can defend well. Personally, I think I have Texas going. Texas is my Final 4 pick out of this side of the bracket. What do you guys feel here?
I'm with you. I have them going to the Final 4 as well.
If we had put Xavier over Texas here, Xavier and Indiana played already, and Indiana beat them by 2. So, and then that would mean Indiana would be our Final 4 pick, and I just don't see that from Indiana. So I'm okay with going Texas here.
Okay. Texas it is. All right, now let's go to the East bracket, and we'll finish with KU's bracket in the West before we get to the Final 4. East, Purdue, right off the back, they've got – I'm sorry, this is the one I mixed up the matchups. They have Texas Southern or Farley Dickinson. Don't see either of those teams doing anything to even come close. Maybe they have enough to keep the game interesting, but I think Purdue's talent should win there. Memphis, FAU, I am executive decision here picking Memphis because I've watched several of their games this year, and I think they are very underrated. Lost a couple games here and there that they probably shouldn't have, but this is a team. I think this is one of the lowest ranked teams that could have the most success in the tournament. They're a team that I could see sneaking into the Final 4 potentially out of this side. So I'm going to go Memphis there. Duke, Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts has had upsets in the past being a lower seed. Duke has first-year head coach John Shire, but they are playing well down the stretch. But we also hate Duke. Where do we go? We've had, in fairness, we've had 2 12-5 upsets already.
I agree. I think I'll chalk this one up. I think I'll go with Duke. I think between Dariq Whitehead and Filipowski, I think they got too much talent to lose this early on. Now, granted, they also lost with Jabari Parker in the first round a couple years ago, so I wouldn't put it past them, but I will pick Duke for this.
Yeah, I think Duke's just on a way better hot streak right now. So I don't see them going very, very far in this tournament, but I'll give it to Duke as much as I hate it.
Okay. And then Tennessee, the 4 seed against 13 seed Louisiana. This is one that a lot of experts have as another upset just because Tennessee's struggling down the stretch. And if I'm not mistaken, they're without they lost their starting point guard. So they're a little bit shaken there, but they do have some guys that can shoot. And again, it's Rick Barnes. Is this an upset alert game or does chalk win out?
I'll actually pick the upset on this one. I think missing your point guard is like missing your engine. So a team that is playing an unfamiliar tempo and pace, I think might struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree here. You got to have a 4 or 13 upset somewhere. And I think peer pressure is really getting to me on this one. So I would agree with the upset.
All right, upset it is. Then we got Kentucky Providence. This actually is a pretty solid 6-11 matchup. Providence is not the team they had last year, but they are well coached and they play well in tournament play. And Kentucky has been very shaky in the tournament, but Oscar Tshiebwe, again, one of the best players in the country. Kentucky's playing pretty well. They've got a solid unit. I have Kentucky in this spot here, but I could easily be swayed to pick Providence.
I don't see Kentucky losing first round 2 years in a row, especially with Tshiebwe. I'd pick Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kentucky it is. Then we got K-State, little brother, against 14 seed Montana State, which I have no knowledge of how their season was. I did not do that thorough of a research here. As much, again, as we hate K-State, I am inclined to give them the game here because they have probably 2 of the top 20 players in the country with Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel, but role players pretty well. And again, Coach Tang has had a tremendous coaching season. So I say we give the Cats a win there so they can be a Wildcat matchup with Kentucky. Michigan State USC 7-10 matchup. Honestly, this is a game I literally could care less about. Both teams have beat us years past, so I don't really care to see who wins either one. Michigan State's kind of been on the downturn the last 4, 5, 6 years. USC, they play out in the Pac-12, which I think outside of Arizona and UCLA is always an overrated conference, and they don't have near as much hype this year. So this for me is a toss-em game. I personally am going to go Coach Izzo and his experience, and because I think the Big Ten's a little bit better than the Pac-12.
I'd agree.
Then Marquette versus Vermont. Again, Marquette, one of the hottest teams in the country right now. Shaka Smart's incredible coach. I don't think that should be any tough matchup for them. So back up to the top now. Now we get our Purdue Memphis. And this for me is the one I want to pick as the first 1 seed to drop in the second round. What do you guys feel here?
I think, Purdue's a little overrated. I'd agree with you.
I can see it. I'm just curious how they get past Zach Edey. Do they just wait for him to sit? Wait for him to sit on the bench before they make the run? That's kind of worrying me. But you know what? I think if they can shoot the 3 and just shoot over him, I think that'd be pretty nice. I don't know too well or too much about Memphis and their shooting prowess, but I think they can rebound pretty well, and I think they've got a shot. They're tough and gritty, so I'm tempted to pick the upset here as well.
We're going upset here. Watching Memphis today, I know that they struggled down the early part of the second half. They kind of let Houston back in it, but they are incredibly quick and athletic. I think Penny Hardaway's due for a big time win in the tournament. And again, to me, Kendrick Davis is one of the best guards in the country. And if they get out in transition, I think they could take Edey out for parts of the game. And if they start hitting from 3 too. So for me, this is a potential upset, and I'm inclined to pick the upset here. Are we good with that? All right, upset it is. Memphis advances to the Sweet 16. We've got our first 1 seed going down. Then we got Duke, Louisiana. Again, I think Louisiana could easily win their first round game, but I think this is one where talent should win out. Duke should win this game, even with the first-time head coach, but this is a first-time head coach who has plenty of March Madness experience from his playing days. I think it's a pretty simple one, Duke advancing there. Then we get the fun matchup of Kentucky K-State. Fun for multiple reasons. One, because Oscar Sheba used to be in the Big 12, so we got some Big 12 connections there. K-State is playing incredible this year. What do you guys want to go here? Is this, K-State is I'd be curious to see if K-State would be the betting favorite in this just because of their inexperience in the tournament compared to Kentucky and Calipari, but I do think they are very much overlooked from a talent perspective.
Man, don't want to pick K-State to go on a deep
That's
run.
my thing. I don't want to
But
pick them either, but I could see it happening.
I could definitely see it happening. They got a lot of talent and they're a really good team. So I don't
And
know. Might have to go
Calipari's
with
kind
the
of been on the downhill the last couple of years too.
yeah, I might have to go with the purple Wildcats on this one.
JB, I see you struggling to accept that over there. What are you
These are
thinking?
literally the two teams I hate the most. My first year at KU, and the reason it's Kentucky is because my first year at KU was when KU went to the title game and lost to Kentucky. And ever since then, I've despised them the most. Kentucky also beat us really early on in the Champions Classic that year. So they were the first team that I ever saw Kansas take a loss to. I just hate Kentucky so much. I will say this. I don't know if Kansas State has a way to deal with Oscar Tshiebwe. And I don't like I gotta avoid chalk here. I don't know. I'm kind of going to Kentucky as much as I hate it. I would love to see K-State win this game, but and represent the Big 12 really well. And then the other thought though is, well, Kentucky has made so many mistakes. They have an argument to lose their first game in my mind, but I don't know. Just because I want to spice it up, I kind of want to go upset here. I think Coach Cal can show his experience and get the upset. That's on me.
So you got upset. For me, I think the answer is which conference do we believe is the better conference? If we believe Big 12 is a better conference, then to me that says we got to pick K-State here.
Okay.
And then one thing I was going to pull up real quick because I didn't look ahead of this matchup to see where they would be playing. Because I think location could factor. Because I could see, because K-State hasn't been this good in a while, I see their fans traveling for this.
This matchup would be in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, and that's a lot closer to K-State home. Yeah, I'm gonna go K-State here, guys. I think they got a little bit of a home court advantage. They'll have some more fans there. Let's give it to them. And maybe we don't get them much farther after this, but I think they have earned the season they've had so far. Then Michigan State, Marquette below them. I think this is a decently easy one. I think Marquette advances past Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State really has any firepower to do much of anything. So this is a pretty interesting Sweet 16 matchup because you got some decent names. You got Memphis, Duke, K-State, and Marquette. Marquette being the highest seed of the four, but Memphis, 8 seed Memphis versus 5 seed Duke. Again, I could see this going either way. I could continue. I personally have Memphis going to the Elite Eight and Final Four out of this bracket if they play hot. But I could see Duke going on a roll too because it's Duke.
Honestly, I'll keep going on the upset route. I think Duke's been a little inconsistent and playing first time, head coach. I would not be surprised for an upset, especially with Memphis.
Looking at the way the season has played out, I've just heard so much talk about how Duke is not playing up to their expectations and Jon Scheyer's not being the coach that everyone wanted him to be. Certainly they've had a hot streak, and I think their redemption arc has came and went. Like, I think their redemption arc was winning the ACC. I'm going upset here. I can agree with you on all that, Keegan. I think it'd be really nice. You've got to roll with Memphis. They finally got over the hump. They beat Houston, and they're just going to keep rolling.
Yep, I'm good with that. I think they're playing hot right now. I think Penny Hardaway has more to play for here than Duke. I think even though expectations are high in Duke, I don't think anybody expects Duke to end up in the Final Four in Shire's first year. But I think Penny Hardaway, he's a couple years in now. He's had some decent seasons, but they gotta go deep in the tournament to make some noise. Last year they had a quality team and Jalen Duren was solid and they didn't do a whole lot in the tournament. So I think they have a little bit more to play for. I think they're fired up. And again, I think Kendrick Davis is one of the best players on this side of the bracket. So yeah, let's go Memphis to the Elite Eight. And again, as an 8 seed, I think they're underrated. They're more like a 5 seed to me. Then we got K-State Marquette. Again, another matchup that I think will be a very fun matchup to watch. Two high quality teams against each other. Obviously I'm a little bit more familiar with K-State's play than Marquette's, but two top notch coaches. Jerome Tang first year, does the hype continue to roll into the Elite Eight, or does Shaka Smart's time with Marquette give him an edge here?
I think I'm rolling with Shaka Smart on this one.
He's been known to have deep runs in the tournament.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
All right, then K-State makes it to the Sweet 16, which is incredible again for them, but unfortunately that is where it ends.
They're also 5-5 in their last 10.
They kind of struggled down the stretch. I'll give you that. So now we got Elite Eight matchup of Memphis and Marquette. Again, I am fine giving Memphis the edge here and rolling to the Final Four, but I could go with Shaka Smart. Honestly, of the 4 regions, I wouldn't say this is the weakest region, but I think this is the one that has the most potential for anyone outside of the 2 seed to make it to the Final Four.
Man, roll with Memphis. I have no inclination for Shaka Smart, and quite frankly, I'm still mad at VCU, so I'm cool with Memphis.
Well, we get to pick a VCU matchup too later. All right, Memphis it is. So there you have it, guys. That is the 8 seed going to the Final Four to face off. Oh, I guess we haven't. Oh, we didn't pick our guys. We didn't pick our Elite Eight matchup against Arizona, Alabama.
I thought you were saving it. We didn't pick it for.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Well, we jumped ahead. So Memphis to the Final Four. Let's go ahead and go back to that Arizona-Alabama matchup then in the Elite Eight. Personally, between the two, I think Bama has the better player, but given all the circumstances around that incident and the way Nate Oates has been talking about it, I want to see them lose, but I also don't want to see Arizona win either because I think they're overrated and they're always projected to be a Final Four team and they never make it. So to me, this is a toss-up.
There's a stat that I like weird March Madness stats, but I think this one is pretty telling. I think it's like the last 15 or 20 seasons, the winner's been top 37 and top 57. Top 57 in offense, top 37 in defense, 57. The outlier is UConn in 2014. Alabama falls into that category, and Arizona is not, and they are missing it by a big chunk. So I would probably go Bama on this. I think that Arizona could potentially get it done with the size and out rebounding. But again, any team that's got NBA talent in a tough conference, it's hard for me to pick against. And I do think Bama's been the best team this season in the entire country.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring up that statistic too. So, yeah, great minds think alike. I'm all on board for letting Bama go as much as I don't really like putting all 1 seeds or anything like that. But you know what? Bama's just too good to not advance here.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think again, Alabama is probably one of the best teams in the country, so they should. I think they probably have enough talent to overtake Arizona there. And Alabama will have more of a home field advantage for sure. Okay, then before we get to KU's bracket, let's go back to the other Elite Eight matchup then of Texas, Indiana. To me, again, this is Texas going to the Final Four. I like the way they're being coached right now. They're so long and athletic. I think they're arguably the 4th number 1 seed. I have Texas winning this matchup.
I'd agree.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so there is 3 of the 4 Final Four teams. So far on the left side of the bracket, we've got 1 seed Alabama coming out of the South, facing the underdog 8 seed Memphis out of the East. And then we got Texas, the 2 seed, coming out of the Midwest region to face off the winner of the West matchup, which is KU's bracket, which we'll go through now. So we're going to kind of do this twofold. One, we're going to pick, go through this bracket, but two, kind of talk about KU's chances and what path they need to get to. So let's start with KU, 1 seed. They're obviously beating Howard. KU will never lose as the 1 seed in the first round until the day we die, if that ever, never past
Don't say that.
So,
don't say that.
and hopefully I didn't just jinx us there, but Bill Self, I think we got a lot to play for. Not having Bill Self this weekend, even if Kevin McCullough is out or not 100%, talent should win out there. Arkansas, Illinois, which again, this is on paper one of the most fun matchups, probably the strongest 8-9 game. Personally, I don't want to play Arkansas more than I don't want to play Illinois. I would rather see Illinois come out on top here because I like that matchup better. But do you guys think Illinois can pull it off, or is Arkansas the better team?
I think Arkansas is the better team. They got one of the best point guards in the country, Nick Smith, so I think they win.
I think for the exact reason you don't want to see Arkansas, we got to pick them.
I would agree with you there. So let's go there. Then we got St. Mary's VCU. This is one of my 12-5 matchups that I could see the 12 seed pulling it off because VCU is always dangerous no matter what seed they are, no matter who's coaching them. And again, St. Mary's plays nobody except Gonzaga, but St. Mary's is pretty solid. So do you guys want to go 12-5 upset again here or chalk it up?
I'm actually a pretty big St. Mary's fan. I think they've been pretty good all season, and they're pretty high on Ken Palm's rankings, which, depending on how much value you give to that. But, again, I agree with your point. VCU is always a interesting upset pick.
I think I'm going VCU here just because I don't like St. Mary's conference. I like that VCU does a great job of forcing turnovers. They kind of control the game. They've got a good defense, so I got to go defense. Their records are very similar, and VCU, I just think overall has the better strength of schedule. So I'm going upset here.
Man, that means I gotta be the tiebreaker. I like both of what each of you guys said. I think St. Mary's is a little bit better than they get credit for. But VCU, man, I've got so many memories of VCU tearing teams up in the tournament. Oh, man, we've got 2 12-5 matchups already upset.
It's
I'm
tough
gonna go.
because you know what, St. Mary's they do have, I guess, more impressive wins. I might take back my strength.
I'm gonna go St. Mary's. I'll be the tiebreaker. I'll go St. Mary's.
All right.
Okay, then the 4 seed UConn against 13 seed Iona. The one thing to think about here is there's potential for Rick Pitino to leave. He's got several potential job opportunities on the line, Texas Tech being one of them, potentially even Texas if they don't name their current coach their long-term. So I could see that being some frustration. UConn's incredibly talented, especially like you mentioned, they're a top 5 team in KenPom ratings, play really fast, super athletic. This game is up near New York, so even for Iona being the small school, it's kind of a home matchup for them. I could see this being one of the 13-4 upsets. I don't know how confident we are putting that as an official bracket one, but I'll let you guys talk me into either one.
I think UConn's too good to pick against in the first round, I would venture.
Oh man, this is tough. I really like the role that Iona is on, having not lost since January. That's pretty impressive. And it's, momentum is a big thing. I think UConn, they were unranked to start the season and have fought their way to a 4 seed. So they're pretty darn good. I think if they can just stay athletic and stay locked in, I think they're, their chances are pretty good. My only hesitation is I really believe that Rick Pitino's the better coach. So it's really a toss up. I guess if it came down to it, I might say UConn here.
On paper, these two teams are pretty similar. Both shoot about 46% from the floor. Both shoot about 35% from three. Ah, man, that's again. This is one that if we want to just go for upsets, I'm totally fine pulling this. But I do think UConn is the better team, and I don't know if coaching alone gets Iona the upset. So I'm gonna go UConn here. If we were doing a bracket that was, majority upsets, I think we'd pick Iona here. But I think again, this is one where talent should win out. Then we got
UConn beat Alabama by 15 points.
True.
That's huge. So I'm okay with it.
All right, TCU versus either the play-in matchup of Arizona State, Nevada, which might be a decently interesting game. Arizona State had a nice win to get them into the NCAA tournament. But I think TCU is the superior team, even without Eddie Lampkin, which is a big loss for them. But again, Mike Miles, one of the best guards in the country. Jamie Dixon's a very good coach. TCU should have that win here. Then Gonzaga, Grand Canyon. Gonzaga, I don't see any reason to go Grand Canyon. That would be a fun upset, but I think Gonzaga there. Northwestern, Boise State, really don't know anything about either of these teams. I know just from watching the Selection Sunday that Northwestern was beyond excited to be ranked where they were, so maybe just off of excitement they get that. And again, Boise State, we know they don't really play much of anybody.
If they're that excited to be a 7th seed, that's kind of worrisome.
That's true. That's a good point. But I'm good doing a 10. I don't think have we had a 10-7 upset? Yeah, we had Utah State upsetting Missouri. Let's go another 10 upset here. Let's just go Boise State. UCLA, UNC Asheville, UCLA, pretty obvious there. Okay, so now we get to round of 32. Before we continue on, let's talk about that Kansas-Arkansas matchup. Probably one of the toughest matchups on paper for KU. Even if they get the win there, they're going up against a solid St. Mary's team, solid UConn team. They still got TCU, Gonzaga, and UCLA looking down the stretch. How confident are you guys feeling in a KU Arkansas matchup that we could pull it out, given the fact that they have a little bit more size down low? I do think DeJuan Harris could do enough to slow down Nick Smith. Enough, maybe not a lot, but if DeJuan wants to be the stopper, he'll be the stopper. I think for me, it's all about, does Grady Dick show up? If Grady Dick can't shoot a three and Kevin McCullar's not bringing his defensive intensity, we don't stand a chance against anybody.
Yeah, I'd agree. Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I think I just can't see Kansas losing this game because of really our experience. I think when push comes to shove, I think we're gonna win this game. I've noticed that KU does this all the time. They lose games that don't matter in the grand scheme of things. They lost to Texas on senior night when they had already, shored up the outright Big 12 title. Of course, they lose to Texas again in the Big 12 tournament. It can be argued that that game matters, especially now that we ended up with the third overall seed.
Could have cost them the Midwest region in Kansas City, potentially.
Yeah. But I think KU ultimately knew they were still getting a 1 seed regardless. I don't know. I just believe in us. I just can't see a way that we lose.
I think it would also be wrong of us as a podcast to not pick Kansas. We'll get into if we actually think they'll go all the way or not and repeat, but I think it would be wrong to not pick them there. Okay, so then UConn, St. Mary's. Again, I would rather face St. Mary's over UConn. UConn's probably a little bit more talented. But again, I think this could be an easy toss-up matchup.
I'd probably go with UConn in this exchange. I think they're too talented. I'd rather play St. Mary's, but if we're going to who we think is going to win, I think it's UConn. Yeah. UConn.
All right, UConn it is. Then we get the TCU Gonzaga game. Now, what I hope happens here is TCU does upset Gonzaga because I think that would be great. And I think it's possible. Gonzaga does have size, but again, the way TCU plays, they get after it defensively. They irritate the crap out of you. They're in the lanes all the time. I could see this game getting ugly for Gonzaga. So I have no problem having this being a TCU upset over Gonzaga because again, TCU is one of those teams that could be a 3 or a 4 seed.
Neither team really relies on the three too much. I mean, TCU is definitely that gritty team that I think could pull it out. Gonzaga is going to have a very similar game plan. I think they're both inside the arc majority of the time. So if you're going against conference versus conference, you could definitely choose TCU over this. I'm excited for this game. I definitely think this is going to happen. Whether or not TCU wins, I don't know, but I think for the sake of our bracket, I'm going to put TCU here.
Spencer, what you think?
Hey, I totally forgot about this, but TCU is dealing with some internal conflict that might be a bit of a nagging distraction for them. So keep that in mind. And, I'm always not a big fan of Gonzaga. But that being said, again, I think the Big 12 is just so much miles better than their conference. I'm fine going with the upset here.
Let's go TCU. I think just again their play style is frustrating and they can win those. I mean, look at what they did to KU in Allen Fieldhouse. Granted, we had one of our worst games of the season, but still TCU played a near perfect game and that's their game plan, that's their play style. So if they're sticking to their play style and they can get Gonzaga frustrated, I could see them rolling that one out even without Lampkin. UCLA, Boise State. UCLA again, probably one of the top 5 teams in the country when you really look at it. Again, being the best number 2 seed, argue for number 1 seed. I've got UCLA pulling that one off. Then we get to Kansas in the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, all the way out in Las Vegas, but UConn also would have to travel to Las Vegas. KU has a pretty wealthy alumni base, so I think there'll be a lot of fans still out there. But again, this is a very tough matchup that I don't want to, of course, I don't want to see happen. But this is a team that could really give us a lot of trouble. But are we inclined to pick KU because we are a podcast in the Midwest and we are KU fans?
I think we do pick Kansas. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, let's just go Homer.
Again, Jalen Wilson, one of the finalists for Player of the Year. He carries us through. If Grady Dick can hit from 3, when we're playing how we should be, I think we're one of the 3 best teams in the country for sure. But we've seen how easily KU can get off of their play style and struggle. And when they struggle, it's ugly. All right, TCU, UCLA. Again, another pretty intense matchup. I think I want to give UCLA the edge here just because of location. They'll be out close to home. And TCU, again, this is a tough one. I don't want to play UCLA, but I don't want to play TCU either because of how much they aggravate us. I guess if I had to pick, I wouldn't mind playing TCU again because we've seen them enough that, we can grind it out with them. UCLA scares me. I'm thinking all the way back to 06, 07 with that stupid Aaron Aflalo team that upset us in the tournament, which may have jump-started our championship run the next year. But this is a pretty solid matchup. I think UCLA gets the edge, though, just because of proximity to home. Talent level is pretty dang close. UCLA definitely a little bit more talented, but I wouldn't be surprised if TCU pulls it off.
I'd go ahead and go with UCLA on this one. I think they got a lot of talent and the advantages of where they're playing. Yeah, I think it's just too much at that point.
All right, UCLA it is. Okay, now we've got KU UCLA in the Elite 8. I don't feel good about this game. I'm going to be honest. This one scares me a lot, especially being a close game for UCLA close to home. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
This is tough for me. I think I really want to pick us. Yeah, UCLA is going to really have the home court pretty much. I mean, now earlier I can't remember what game we were talking about where I was like, "Oh, that game is in Denver." I'm actually not sure if that game was in Denver. Now that I'm back up, I'm pulling up ESPN. ESPN has this game at T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, which we know is obviously incorrect. So I don't know what ESPN is doing. However, UCLA, KU, if we were to lose anywhere, it would be against them. I really think that it would be against them. Um, they don't have their guard Jalen Clark, but of course they play as if it doesn't matter. So I'm kind of struggling here. They I don't know. I really would want to know how good our fans are at traveling.
Yeah, I'd agree. This is going to be a tough one. And if we did lose anywhere short of the Final Four, this would probably be my most common pick. Jamie Hawkins is an absolute bucket. So it needs to, I like how McCullough matches up with him. I think size wise, they're similar. I think he's got, the physical tools to kind of bug him, especially if he's playing in that elbow area. And then Tiger Campbell, hopefully Dewan can kind of contain him a decent amount. But I think the entirety of KU's success is going to depend on just a couple factors. Is Grady hitting his perimeter shots? Is he not even is he hitting shots? Is he involved in the offense? Is he actively cutting off the ball? Is he helping spacing, around so Jalen can actually drive and have a clean lane to the bucket? Is Dewan looking to, when he drives, is he automatically thinking I'm going to pass this no matter what happens? Or is it, okay, I can pass or score. I'm going to read whatever the defense gives me. So KU is dependent on like three factors to win, which kind of makes it hard to tell how good they're going to do. Because if one of those is off, it's going to be a rough night.
Yeah, this could be a matchup where KU needs more things to go in their favor than UCLA does. I do like McCullough on Yaquez, as I like to call him, because it's just fun to say that. I do like that matchup. I really like Dewan on Tiger Campbell. That's a pretty good matchup. UCLA does have that kind of home atmosphere. I think Bill Self's the better coach. If KU can rebound well, they should pull this one out, being the top seed. Again, because it is the podcast, we're going to pick KU for this matchup, but would not be upset. Well, we'd be upset if they lost, but I could see them losing that matchup and UCLA getting there. So that brings us to the Final Four. We got Alabama, Memphis on one side, and then KU and Texas on the other side, which scares the crap out of me, especially that being in Houston. So Texas has the home atmosphere across the teams there. Let's start on the West. Alabama, Memphis, another fantastic potential matchup there. Two high-powered teams, good guard play, good coaches. One that would be a lot of fun just to watch in general. If that is the matchup, what are our initial thoughts on how that game could go?
I think Bama's a little bit too much for Memphis to handle. I think they're similar play styles, and I just think I'd have to go Bama here. It's also the safest pick for accuracy's sake, as much as I hate to say it, but there's a reason they're one overall. So we talked about potential places where they could lose up to this point and just haven't seen it. So I'd go Alabama.
I go Bama too. I think the differences in the conference are going to be too much. SEC was pretty darn competitive this year, so I will unfortunately I'll go with Bama too. I know I hate to go chalk, especially we're not even talking about football, so I hate to even be talking about Alabama because they already get so much love on the other side, but I'll take them as well.
I think what's interesting with this matchup is, these two teams played each other back in December, and Alabama had a screech out a 3-point win, 91-88, in a game that was constantly back and forth. Kendrick Davis had a big game, scoring 30. But Brandon Miller too scored 24, so he had an incredible game. As I was looking at the stats on this game, what was interesting, Alabama home game, they shot 10 of 27 from three, and Memphis went 1 of 12. So even if they knock down one more three, they're in it. So I think there is an argument to be made that Memphis could pull this one out. I definitely think they have the guard play between Davis and then their wing player, well, their big man Williams. Um, Man, that's a good fun matchup. Again, I've been saying this all year that I think Alabama's probably the best team in the country. Um, this might be where Memphis's run in. I don't see Memphis making national. I mean, if we're being honest, I can't sit here and say Memphis is going to be in the national championship. I just don't think we can do it. All right, so that puts us back on the other side again. KU versus Texas in a matchup we absolutely dread.
It's Kansas all the way, man. I don't care if this game actually happens. KU will not, under any circumstances, lose that game. I guarantee it, write it in stone. We're not losing this game. If that actually comes to fruition, Kansas will not lose this game. You know what? I don't care that the crowd would probably be rooting for Texas. If that's the case, I don't care about any of those outside circumstances. What stands out to me is I think aren't like three of our starters originally from the Texas area. I mean, they're going to have plenty of family and friends there too. I mean, it's just, I think it's going to be a lot of pride on the line, and Kansas is going to show why why we won the Big 12 by at least one game, right? I just can't see Kansas losing this game if it does come to a game against Texas.
Yeah, I think we'd have to leave the Big 12 if we lost to Texas 9-1 season. That's what it feels like at least. But yeah, I'm not picking against KU. I think Bill's too good at adjusting when he's playing teams. So I think if there's been an area of weakness that Texas has targeted the last couple games, I don't think it's going to happen a third time.
And in fairness, Texas, I think, had a little bit more to play for, senior night for them, final game. Even though they couldn't win the Big 12, that gives them a lot of momentum. Even though KU did play most of their stars though for majority of the game, even though we should have probably pulled them sooner. Bill Self's never lost to the same team 3 times in one season. Wouldn't expect that to happen again. Bigger stage. We've been here, done that before. Texas hasn't. We're going Kansas, guys. Even though, again, matchup we would hate to see, but we got to pick Kansas in the national championship. So that puts us with 2 1 seeds in the national championship. Kansas, Alabama, a matchup I would gladly take because I think I want to see us try and take on Brandon Miller. There's a lot of fans out there that have Nate Oates at the top of their list if Bill Self were to ever retire as being the guy to come replace him. I would rather this be a statement game and take down Bama. But it is incredibly tough to repeat alone, get back to a Final Four. So if Kansas is able to pull that off, we've got them this far. We might as well pick them to win, which we should be doing anyway as fans. But just from a non-KU fan perspective, how would you guys see this game going down between this matchup?
If I'm a non-Kansas fan, I'm picking Bama here 100% of the time. And I'm only going to say that because of, I guess, one, I do know the statistics of repeating are not in our favor. We talked about that, but also I can't get over the fact, personally, I can't get over the fact that this is not the same team as last year. Where it's just not. And we've done plenty in a tough conference. I think our accolades really do a good job of speaking for themselves, especially after losing 75% of our scoring, losing Ochai, losing Christian. Those guys, they just played so hard and they did so well for us. And I think Grady and Kevin coming in, Jalen stepping up, it's been a good replacement. And you cannot argue that it has been mediocre by any stretch. But I just can't see us being the winner of this game if I'm not a Kansas fan, because we're just not the same team. We've fallen behind and we've fought back. Yes. It's almost like, I would say last year's team was the best team that we've ever seen. under Kansas and under Bill Self, then this team is probably like 3 or 4 at best. And I'm not sure that's enough to get it done. But as a Kansas fan, I'm absolutely going to pick Kansas to win this game. It'll be a tough game for sure.
Yeah, it would be a very fun matchup because I do want to see how we would take on Brandon Miller. Would it be KJ? Would it be McCullough? How much would Jalen be on him? Um, I do like our chances on the road in this kind of matchup better than Bama. Again, I think our fan base would travel more than Bama's fan base, because we are a basketball school and they are a football school, even given the success they have. Um, and when KU is at its best, our starting five is top three in the country for sure. I think, Texas is one you could argue is up there, even Baylor when they're at their best out of the Big 12. Not that Bama's starting five isn't good, but for me, if KU is really going to repeat, their starting five has to be fantastic every single match, every matchup they have, but they got to get something from the bench. And I know, Spencer, we talked about this on our last episode, um, who could be some potential Mr. March candidates. And I think if KU is going to have a deep run, we got to see Uday be a big guy coming off the bench. I think he has potential to have a pretty solid tournament too, just because he is athletic. And if KJ's struggling and in foul trouble, I could see Uday getting a nice good run and just getting out in transition with him. Bobby has got to do a little bit more. Yesufu has to hit from three, and even if we see a little bit of MJ Rice, that would be nice. But I think if KU is healthy and playing to what they're capable of, and we're not getting into a gym where the rims are terrible, I think Grady's gonna get looked. Like you said, Spencer, Bill Self is tremendous at game planning and adjustments, and he'll find a way to get Grady open. I think Joe, in this case though, KU has to have a little bit more fall their way. I think Alabama, I've watched a couple of their games and they can have an off night, but that athleticism carries them. And that again, that's been KU's biggest struggle. Even Texas, when the time we did beat them and they weren't hitting a lot of shots, they were still in it every single time because they're just so long and athletic. And I could see that giving us a lot of fit. But there are several guys out there that do have Kansas repeating as champs, and an hour ago when we were sitting here complaining about not being the number one overall seed, here we are also sitting here saying, "Oh my gosh, how tough it would be to repeat and how they may not even be the best team in the tournament." So again, that's the day in the life of a Kansas fan. We think we're the best, and then when it comes to playing the best, we're like, "Yeah, man, that would actually be a tough matchup." But we wouldn't expect anything less. So let's pick it. Kansas is going to be the national champs again, back to back, baby. Haven't seen that since Florida did it. A lot of similarities to that team, though.
If anyone does want some slight reassurance, all year we've talked about how shooting's kind of the big struggle for Kansas and outside of Grady. Bama does shoot worse from three from us. They only have two guys that shoot over 35%, and that's Brandon Miller at 40, and then Marcus Sears is barely over 35. So their spacing's almost just as bad as us. So if that does help, we're not going to see a repeat of Villanova in 2018. So no one's hitting 33s against us in that matchup at least. So that does give me a little bit of reassurance. I think a big matchup for that is Noah Clowney and KJ Adams. Clowney can step out a little bit, doesn't shoot great from three, but he can still step out in the perimeter. He's a big body, 6'10", so how well KJ stays on him, and if he gets KJ in foul trouble, how does it affect us on the other end? So a lot of moving parts, but I would actually almost be comfortable picking us in that matchup. I think we don't match up against them terribly.
So Kansas repeats as national champs. Feels pretty good to say that. Don't know how confident I feel in it, but I'm all for it. So for the sake of the bracket challenge, we do have to pick a final score as a tiebreaker just in case. I think in this matchup, these are two high-powered teams, so I could see this being a high-scoring game, but I think it probably ends up somewhere in the 70s. What do you guys want to pick for our prediction for score? I'm kind of feeling like 77, 73. I think this would be a close game. I don't think either team would run away with it.
I think it's a tight game. I'd go somewhere along there, 76 to 71 or something like that.
JB, what's your thoughts? Nope, you're still on mute, bud.
Sorry about that. I was not going to go as high as maybe 79 or anything like that. I definitely agree the 70s is where I can see this game. Kansas, you know what? If they win it, I think I'm more in line with what Spencer said about it was 76, 71, I believe he said. I do think it's going to be close, so I'm okay with that.
Now, Alabama does average more than us. They average about 83 points a game to our about 77. But KU's ability, again, when we're playing defense the way we're capable of, we're one of the best defensive teams in the country. So we could easily give them fit. So let's go. Close game. Do we think this is a one possession game or 2+?
Say about 2+, five or six would be my pick.
All right, let's go 76-71 then.
Do it.
All right, so we are going to press submit on our official podcast bracket. Again, each of us will make our own individual brackets, which I'd be willing to bet will be just a tad different from our official podcast one. Now, if our podcast one or any of the three of us actually come out on top, we will not be accepting any of the prizes or finish top three. But if we do finish top three, whether it's our individual or the podcast official bracket, that just means the rest of you guys that joined are clearly not as talented at picking March Madness picks as well as us. But more power to you if you do win. I think March Madness is one of the most fun sporting events you ever see. It is a total crapshoot. Most nights, any team could pull off the victory regardless of the number next to their name. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if we'll have time midweek to do a preview of KU's first matchup. And depending on how this breaks down, maybe we will do another one next weekend if we get past the first weekend and kind of go from there. But again, thank you guys for joining us on this. This was a lot of fun. We're super excited to be hosting this bracket challenge as a podcast. Hope we get a lot of you guys to join in with us. If you're watching on YouTube later, leave your comments below. Let us know what you think, how this tournament's going to go, who you have coming out on top. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at KCSApod and over on Facebook. You can hit us up on there too. Let us know what you think. Like I said, the link to our bracket challenge will be plastering it all over the place. Share it with your friends. Anybody can join. One entry per person. And again, once the tournament ends, we'll make sure we get those gift card prizes to you. First place being a $100 Rally House gift card, which is, you can do some damage there. $50 gift card to Jefferson's and a $25 gift card to Johnny's Tavern. So Spencer, JB, thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Can't wait to get March Madness rolling, and hopefully we see another rock chalk path to a championship. Any final thoughts from you guys on March Madness?
You know what? I'm going to say this is going to be a great tournament. Looking at our podcast bracket, who knows how accurate this is going to be. March Madness is exactly that. It is madness. I did notice that we did not have a double-digit seed in the Sweet 16, which has happened every single year since 2008, I believe they said.
That's a good catch. I didn't even notice that.
So we might have goofed up, but also, as much as history repeats itself, records are meant to be broken. So things like that, all just have to be, factored in. I think if you're filling out your bracket, best of luck to you. For strategy's sake, you might put some of those high seeds up. You might run with a little bit of chalk. Good teams are good for a reason. But there's so many of these games where you can literally flip a coin. So I wish the best of luck to everybody.
I think it's going to be one of the most bracket busting years ever. I think this is going to be something's going to happen in the first round. Somebody's going to lose. And this was one of the hardest ones to predict in a while, I think. So a lot of talent, a lot of spread out, through the higher and lower seeds. So I hope nobody's expecting to win the $1 million 100% correct bracket prize this year, because I don't think it's going to happen.
That would be super impressive because again, this is a tournament field that again I think there's about 8 to 12 teams that could argue their case and have a path to the championship. And again, even the 1 seeds don't have anything easy for them. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You know, we're just a few days away. KU plays Thursday at 1 p.m. for their first matchup. So not that too far away. So again, if you guys are watching this tomorrow, being Monday the 13th, you've got about 24 hours or so to get your picks locked in for the bracket challenge. Follow along with us. You know, we'll be following along pretty detailed, you know, sending out tweets and posts about different upset alerts and that kind of stuff, and continuing to give our takes on it. So again, thanks guys for joining us. Don't forget to hit subscribe.